And it's a little bit easier to recover rather than having your entire savings wiped out.
Montgomery County 911, what's the address of the emergency?
Welcome to another episode of Voices of Service. Today we have somebody who's been with us here a few times now, and we clearly love him as our guest. So Detective Petty, thank you for being here with us
Thank
today.
you for having me again.
So we have a bit of an update. We have some more information that we want to provide our community about skimmers, correct?
Yeah.
So is this a continued problem? I know that we've had you on before and we've talked about this, but we're still seeing this and it's still affecting our community members.
It absolutely is still affecting members of Montgomery County and the region, the DMV as a whole. We've absolutely seen an increase in the number of skimmers that we've been recovering from points of sales at, convenience stores and other locations. So it is absolutely still a problem.
Now, are we collaborating with other jurisdictions to work on this, or is this something that, I know you say we're seeing it, are we kind of like forging the investigative side of it?
Yeah, so we have collaborated with other law enforcement agencies as well as our federal partners to try to get a handle on some of these skimmers that are being placed onto points of sales in the region. We are absolutely looking towards, furthering the investigations and making arrests in them, but obviously, getting to that point does take time, and unfortunately, in that time that it's taking to investigate, we're still seeing skimmers being applied.
Absolutely. So explain to me, or explain to us, how the skimmer works.
Yeah, so the skimmer is very simple. It's placed at the point of sale. There is some, computer wires and other things that are attached to the skimmer. That is going to capture the data that's on your credit card when you swipe the card.
Now that's something that I actually just learned, because when you insert the card, the data is different than when you swipe.
Yeah.
So can you explain to us the difference in that?
Yeah, so when you use the chip, which is also inserting your credit card into the point of sale, that's using dynamic data.
Okay.
That's dynamic data. So that's going to change every single time you use your card. But the data on your credit card on the magnetic stripe is static data. So that data is not going to change just because you go from CVS to 7-Eleven to Walmart.
It remains the same all the time.
It's always going to be the same. And that's what the suspects are looking for. They're looking for what information is on your credit card, what's on that magnetic stripe that they can capture to then put onto another credit card to then use. Even though you have your legitimate credit card, they then have your information on a fraudulent, fictitious, counterfeit credit card.
So then I can physically have my card in my possession, but through the way of the skimmer, they're able to obtain, and through the strip on my credit card, they're able to obtain that information and put it on a completely different credit card.
It can be a completely white plastic card that you can buy off of the internet or get from some underground website on the dark web. Or it could be a legitimate credit card that they have, and they just re-encode the data on the magnetic stripe. Either way, your information ends up on that credit card that they have. You didn't authorize them to have it,
Correct.
And now they have it.
So what can we do to protect ourselves from this?
The easiest way to protect yourselves is to always use a credit card for any transactions, any purchases.
Okay.
If you're going to use a credit card, there's certain protections that you have with credit cards that you don't necessarily have with financial institutions, with banks.
I was going to say, when you say credit card versus a debit card, correct?
Correct. Your credit card versus a debit card. So, your debit card is attached to a bank account. So that's where you pay your bills. You're going to be paying your mortgage. That's where you get your direct deposit from your employer. If the suspect gets access to that account, you might be in a pickle for a bit until the bank resolves, giving you your money back.
Right.
At least with a credit card, there are certain protections that you have. You didn't complete that transaction, you didn't authorize the transaction, you can dispute that transaction, and it's a little bit easier to recover rather than having your entire savings wiped out.
Right.
So using a credit card is always going to be better.
Inhibiting them from actually gaining access to our bank account, essentially.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what about like Apple Pay or the tap? Is that a secure way for that transaction to occur?
I would always suggest individuals use the tap. Tap to pay is always the best way to go. If you can't tap to pay, use the chip. Insert your credit card.
Okay.
The swipe is the last resort. I would try to avoid swiping any credit card at all costs.
Okay.
Doesn't matter where you are, it is always best to tap to pay.
Okay.
Tap to pay, or some people have it on their phones. Use that to pay. It's much easier, much safer than to swipe your credit card.
Absolutely. Now with the inserting the chip, that they can still access information, but it's highly unlikely?
It is very unlikely that they're going to be able to manipulate that data.
Okay.
More so than it is with a skimmer and the swipe, the magnetic stripe data. The magnetic stripe data, like I said, is it's there and it's not going to change. So that credit card number is easy to steal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else that you want our community or that you think our community should know? I mean, is there something, obviously we see this in your hand, we see this skimmer. Is there another type of skimmer that they should be looking for? I know when personally I get gasoline, I always get nervous because I think I don't really know. They all look different. You know, obviously I'm going to use the tap every time now, or insert my chip. But is there anything specific that you think our community should be looking for, just so we can protect ourselves?
Specifically for the point of sale, so if you're going to a 7-Eleven or a CVS or Walgreens or something like that, you want to look at the point of sale. You want to see where are you putting your card into. If it looks suspicious, don't use it. Just don't use it. It's no point in trying to let me guess and let me hope and just don't use it. Let a manager know, contact our non-emergency number. We'll come out and take a look and inspect it and see if there's a skimmer attached to it. If it's falling apart, you don't want to use that. Right. Typically, there's going to be a lip over some of the point of sale. So it may be over the screen because it has to sit on top. So there's going to be a little ridge that may be there. If that ridge is there, that could be a skimmer. Okay. Especially if you're looking at, you're standing at the register and there are two different registers, two different points of sales. One looks a little different than the other. You see a lip on one, you don't see a lip on the other. Something may not be quite right there. And you might want to not use the one with the lip. You might want to alert a manager or notify law enforcement, and we'll come out and take a look and see. So if you see something, don't use it, notify somebody. See something, say something. At ATMs, ATMs are a little harder, and so are gas stations. Those are typically either attached to the front if it's an ATM, or if it's a gas station, it may be inserted inside of the gas station point of sale terminal. So you may not even know that one is installed at the gas station. Those are much harder to detect, much harder to find, and we don't necessarily see a prevalence of those here in the DMV area, so we don't too much have to worry about them. They exist, but we don't necessarily see those too much. But the point of sales at your local convenience store, your CVS's, 7-Eleven. 7-Elevens are big ones, and then your banks, they absolutely are ripe for targets to exploit. Okay,
and again, use that chip and use the tap, and in many ways those are our best ways to protect ourselves.
Those are absolutely your best ways to protect yourself. And another easy way is at the end of every month, check your statements. Look at your bank statements, look at your credit card statements. If it's a charge on there that you don't recognize, it is okay to dispute it. If you don't recognize it, let somebody know, hey, I did not make this charge. Because if a credit card company sees that the charge is there, they're going to assume that you completed it, you accepted it, you allowed it to go through, because you're getting that monthly statement. So check your statements on a monthly basis. As soon as you get it, check it, just run over it real quick, see what's there, make sure it's all legitimate. Do the same with your bank statements. I know detectives in our office, we check our bank accounts on a regular basis, typically once or twice a day. Just because we are in this field and we know what happens when individuals are able to capture that data.
You guys are the experts. You know what happens.
We are constantly looking for it, even though it may be nothing there. We're still looking for it, and detectives in our office, we're constantly looking for it. So, I wouldn't suggest that people they don't necessarily have to check it every day or once or twice a day like we do, but checking it regularly, keeping up to date with what you have in your accounts, it definitely helps out in the end.
Yeah. Making it a habit to check this, and then it'll just become natural.
If you're on your phone throughout the day anyway,
check your bank statement.
Just check it for a few minutes here and there.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. Do you have anything else that you want to let our community know?
I think just be aware, and if you see something, say something.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me again.
And thank you guys for staying tuned. Until next time, stay safe and stay connected.